He helped a lost alien girl find her mother. Now his life will never be the same. The rain hammered against the windshield as Jake drove down the empty highway at midnight, and he was tired from his double shift at the warehouse. But something caught his eye on the side of the road, and it was small and glowing faintly blue in the darkness, and against his better judgment, he pulled over. What he found would change everything he knew about the universe. A small figure sat huddled behind the guardrail, and she looked like a child, maybe 7 or 8 years old, but her skin had a faint silvery sheen that seemed wrong in the dim light. And when she looked up at him, her eyes were too large and too bright, and they were filled with tears that sparkled, like tiny stars. She was shivering and wearing something that looked like fabric but moved like liquid mercury, and Jake knew immediately that this was not a human child. "Hey there," he said softly and crouched down to her level. "And are you okay?" The girl made a sound that was musical and strange, and then suddenly words formed in his mind, not spoken but felt, and she was communicating directly with his thoughts. Lost, and the word carried waves of fear and sadness, and mother gone and ship left, and alone. Jake felt his heart clench, and alien or not, this was a terrified child and he could not leave her here. And he held out his hand, and she hesitated for only a moment before taking it, and her skin was warm and smooth, and sent tiny tingles up his arm. "I will help you find your mother," he promised. They sat in his truck, and Jake turned up the heat while the girl, whose name sounded like chimes when she projected it into his mind, but which he simplified to Luna, told him what happened, and her people had stopped on Earth for emergency repairs to their ship, and Luna had wandered away fascinated by the rain which her desert world never had, and when she turned back the ship was gone, and her mother must be frantic. Jake knew he should call someone, and the government and the military and scientists would want to know about this. But looking at Luna, trembling and afraid, he could not bring himself to hand her over to people who might treat her like a specimen. "We will find her together," he said. The search began that night, and Jake used every resource he had, and he posted on forums about strange lights in the sky, and he drove to the original landing site that Luna described, and he even risked calling his friend Danny, who worked at the local observatory. Danny met them at a diner at 3 in the morning, and when he saw Luna, his coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. "Jake, that is an alien," he whispered. Luna looked between them, and her large eyes growing worried. "She is a kid who needs help," Jake said firmly. "And can you track any unusual spacecraft activity or not?" Danny stared for a long moment, then pulled out his laptop and started typing. Over the next 3 days, Jake and Luna became an unlikely team, and she showed him technology that made his smartphone look like a stone tool, and a small device she had hidden in her clothing could translate any language and detect life signs from miles away, and another created clean water from thin air. But more than the technology, Jake was amazed by Luna herself, and she was brilliant and curious and kind, and she told him about her world where 3 moons hung in purple skies and cities grew from living crystal, and where families were the center of everything. She missed her mother desperately. Jake found himself caring for this strange child in ways he had not expected, and he taught her to eat pizza, and she taught him to see patterns in static that revealed hidden messages, and they watched cartoons together, and she laughed at the funny parts even though she did not understand half the humor. And slowly he realized he would do anything to reunite her with her family. On the 4th day, Danny called with news. "I found something, and there is a ship in orbit, and it has been there since Luna went missing and broadcasting on frequencies we normally do not monitor, and I think they are searching for her." Luna grabbed Jake's arm, and her eyes shining with hope and mother. They drove to an empty field that Luna said would be safe for landing, and Jake helped her activate a beacon from her clothing, and the device pulsed with soft blue light and sent a signal into the sky. They waited. An hour passed, and then 2, and Jake was about to suggest they try something else when the stars above them began to move. The ship descended in complete silence, and it was beautiful and elegant, and made of something that looked like mother of pearl, and reflected colors that Jake had no names for, and a door opened in its side and a ramp extended down. A woman appeared at the top, and she was tall and graceful and looked like an older version of Luna. And when she saw her daughter, she ran down the ramp so fast, she was almost flying. Luna screamed "Mother" in Jake's mind, and launched herself forward. The reunion was everything Jake hoped it would be, and Luna's mother held her daughter and made sounds that needed no translation, and tears that sparkled like Luna's ran down her face, and she rocked Luna back and forth and kept touching her face and hair as if to make sure she was real. Then Luna's mother looked at Jake. The gratitude that flooded his mind was overwhelming, and it was warm and bright and filled with emotions too complex for words. And she approached him and placed her hand over his heart. "You saved my daughter, and the thought carried weight and power, and my family owes you a debt that cannot be repaid." Jake shook his head, and anyone would have done the same. But they did not, and Luna's mother said gently, "And you did, and you risked much, and you asked nothing in return, and you showed kindness to a stranger in a universe that often shows only fear." She stepped back and studied him with eyes that seemed to see past his skin and into his soul. "You have given me back what I treasure most, and I would give you a gift in return if you will accept it." Jake started to refuse, but Luna grabbed his hand. "Please," and she projected, "And you are my friend." Her mother reached into her robes and pulled out something small and crystalline, and it pulsed with inner light. "This is a beacon," and she said, "and not for calling ships, but for calling family. And if you ever need help or sanctuary, or simply wish to see the stars beyond your world, you need only activate it and we will come for you." She pressed it into his palm, and the crystal was warm and alive. "But more than this," and she continued, "and I give you knowledge." And she touched his forehead, and Jake gasped as information poured into his mind, and mathematics and sciences and philosophies and arts from 1,000 worlds, and ways to heal and build and create. That humanity was only beginning to imagine, and it did not overwhelm him, but settled into his thoughts, like seeds, waiting to grow. When she pulled away, Jake staggered. Why, he managed to ask, "Because kindness should be rewarded," and she said, "And because you saw my daughter as a person, and not a curiosity. And because the universe needs more souls like yours, Luna." Hugged him fiercely, "And thank you." And she whispered in his mind, "And I will never forget you." As the ship lifted into the night sky, Jake stood in the empty field holding the crystal beacon and watching until the stars swallowed it whole. And he felt different and changed in ways he could not yet understand. The knowledge in his mind began to surface over the following weeks, and Jake found himself understanding complex equations he had never studied and seeing solutions to problems that had stumped humanity for decades, and he began sketching designs for technologies that could change everything, and clean energy and medical breakthroughs and ways to grow food in hostile environments. He shared them carefully and anonymously at first, and he posted designs on open-source forums and sent anonymous packages to research institutions. And slowly his gifts to humanity began to spread. But Jake knew the real gift was not the knowledge, but the reminder that the universe was vast and full of wonder, and that, somewhere among the stars, a mother and daughter were safe because he chose kindness over fear. Sometimes at night he held the crystal beacon and thought about activating it, and about seeing Luna again and traveling to worlds where purple skies held 3 moons and cities grew from living crystal, and the temptation was strong but not yet. And he decided, and there was work to do here first, and lives to improve, and a world to help prepare for the day when humanity would step out among the stars not as conquerors or victims, but as friends. And when that day came, Jake would be ready, and the beacon would light the way, and Luna and her mother would be waiting. His life would never be the same. And for the first time in years, Jake felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be and doing exactly what he was meant to do. And all because he stopped on a rainy highway to help a lost little girl find her way home. The universe, he learned, was full of strangers, but it only took one act of kindness to turn a stranger into family. And now somewhere among infinite stars he had family waiting and watching and remembering the human who chose to help when he could have walked away. And that made all the difference.